thank you very much to everyone who is right now attending our fourth episode of the Metaverse webinar series. We're here at HealthTech Portugal. My name is Luis Braco Martins. Today I'm here with Hector Mondragon. Hector, uh, thank you very much for being here and to help us understand a bit more about not just your work and Simtryx work, but also your vision of how healthcare can benefit directly from immersive tech. I have several questions, but I do know that you have a presentation, so maybe I'll just give you the floor to do a quick intro and then run through the presentation. Also, please, bear with me if I have some questions. I might just drop my questions during the presentation and then we'll work it
Please
out.
do, please do. I love all questions during the presentation, so no problem. But yes, thanks again, Luis. Thanks everyone that's here. And 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 asking the questions, I think is very important to do what we do. But let me get started sharing our presentation so we can start looking at the visuals of what we're doing. And I think that way it'll come across so much more clearly what is the technology that we're developing. But as Luis was mentioning, at Simtryx, we are developing AI and mixed reality simulations for healthcare. That's the core of it, the base of it. The way that we're doing things since we started a year ago has been mainly redesigning, rethinking how XR should be for healthcare, the accessibility part, the interaction part. And now, 1 year later, we're very happy on the product that we're delivering because we feel that we've accomplished that vision. So let me show you a little bit of what we're doing at Simtryx. But first off, I think it's very important to also start with why are we doing this? We feel that in healthcare, there are a lot of, right now, points that we can improve on, right? Especially in Latin America, which is where I come from. We've been seeing a lot of universities just training medical students, just relying on either mannequins or either preceptor training. But both of these have their limits. And there are more universities that you would think that are only putting their students on the field directly without even mannequin training. Uh, in other parts of the world, it would be unthinkable, or that would be pretty hard to even imagine. But in Latin America, that's more or less the standard in so many universities that I've talked to. So I feel that there's a lot of more deployment that we can do in scale in XR. And moreover, when we start looking at that, we know, right, Luis, that VR is so good for training, but why is it only that such a small fraction of the whole market has migrated to VR? Was a big question to me. I've been doing VR for years, and I know it's really the best way to do training. It has so many great features, but why are we still with such little deployment? And to me, the
Which is
answer
not
was
bad.
it's which is not bad. But if it's the best, or if it's so great, why is it not, in the tens, or at least above half? And what I felt was that accessibility and scalability was one of the things that we haven't yet reached in every software that we're doing in XR and healthcare. So that's why our focus in Simtrix was doubling down on those two features, right? Accessibility, scalability, and obviously retaining immersion. And how are we doing this? Well, we're doing this by AI and mixed reality. And what this looks like is like this. So we have our four core, let's call it, features of Simtrix, of our technology. The first one is mixed reality, right? For us, I've been working with VR since the HTC Vive. It must have been like 8 years ago now. And I remember the way of turning on your headset and putting it on and onboarding people was so hard. We've been getting better and better and better, and I do think the mixed reality is the long-term solution for just accessibility, ease of use. Really, I've had so many people that have tried it, and at first they were like, "I hate VR. Don't even put me on a headset. I get so dizzy." But after doing it with mixed reality, I was like, "Trust me, this will fix it, or this will make you feel better," and it did. I haven't had any complaint about dizziness or any kind of problem with mixed reality. To me, it'll definitely solve the problem. But to this, when you start doing mixed reality, you can't just use controllers. It really brings down the immersion. Like you seeing the patient in the real world, but you seeing two plastic controllers in your hands, that takes you out of it. So to us, there was a big challenge. It meant to us to also rethink what's the way of interacting. So what we did was we started putting physics on every part of the rig, of the body of the patient, of the virtual patient. What this allowed or allows the users to do now is with your hands, you can touch and lift and move the patient around seamlessly as you would do in real life. Really, what this does is to close the loop of immersion, really, in which you put the virtual patient in the real world and then you start touching him. Now it feels real. Now it feels really lived in. But to that, if you want to start interacting with the patient, you can't just now just be pressing buttons in the air. You need to have really an engaging one-on-one conversation that evolves also seamlessly. So that's where AI came in. We deployed AI into our simulations, and we're very happy to how quick and snappy it is, the back and forth. So now with that other piece of the puzzle, now the final part is how do you interact with other people? Sometimes and a lot of times healthcare training is a team-based effort, but you don't also want to be looking at avatars next to you, right, in the real world. What you want to see are your peers, just like they would look in real life. So that's how we also deployed shared space multiplayer, in which you put multiple headsets in the same room, they all connect to each other, and you can see and obviously look and touch to your peer. He's right there, and you can also see how you can interact with them in the same room. And all this works in tandem with all the features that I just mentioned, right? Mixed reality, hand tracking, interaction with physics, AI. So what this does, it creates really a seamless experience of training, as you can see right here. I'm not sure if the video will play correctly during the stream, but kind of how it looks like now is now you can do more in-depth cases that demand you to be on point to save your patient. We have multiple types of cases. One of these are just basic consultation, but the one that you're looking at right here, this is an ER case, is an advanced case, is where as we're calling it, in which you need to have your patient get to a successful patient send off without his vitals going down. And you need to basically ask the correct questions, do the correct procedures to save him in real time. If not, you will obviously face a case of cardiac arrest. In this case, I think we can even see this. It's very engaging, really, in mixed reality. Even when you have a case where you lose your patient, it's kind of a shocking moment. So we also feel that VR heightens those moments of success, but also failure. And I think that's the whole thing behind VR, behind XR. Um, and so, a little bit for the webinar, I think it's also important to not only put our product out, but also to talk about what our conclusions are really after 1 year of work. If I could tell everyone what our key takeaways are, I would always begin with that accessibility is king. We feel that we started with that vision, and now 1 year later, we've seen enough feedback that we feel like accessibility is the first thing that you need to strive for and build everything around it, but never lose sight of that. Especially with something that like VR, right? That still needs to be proven. Well, you need to have VR be accessible and easy to use for everyone. But the second point really is that uh, being asynchronous is really important. We've seen other solutions that had to have another person at the other side of the computer. Those were the first generation, but we feel like being asynchronous is really important. Everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people now have headsets, Quest 3s for the recreational use. And if you really want start spreading your software everywhere, you also need to have the doctors, the medical students be able to train whenever and wherever they want. And the AI part of it makes it asynchronous, makes it so you can always do it on your own if you wanted to. But also, if you want to learn together, multiplayer is so important. So that was something that we didn't start with thinking about, but during the process of deploying, doing demos and everything, that very, very quickly rise up to number one most desired feature. And we found out that multiplayer really is very, very much desirable, but by every university that we talk to. And so finally, I think that brings me back to my place of origin, right? Latin America. Um, a big problem of simulations up to this point is that mannequins are way, way more expensive than you would think. So part of it was also to deliver um, an accessible product, easy to use, but at a price factor and in a headset that's very easy to just buy and deploy. So right now we have some clients in Latin America that before having mannequins, they're starting to get Quest 3s, you know, which to me, before starting Simtryx, would be also something pretty hard to imagine. But it's because mannequins and other kinds of simulations are hard to deploy sometimes in universities that don't have the big of a budget. But I think that we're delivering something that is cutting edge, feels real, easy to use, but also it strikes a perfect balance of the price factor in regions that really need it. And I think that's also key in delivering our product. And that's a little bit about what we're doing in Syntrix. I think in general, that's how the technology is looking like, and that's our focus. So far, we're very happy where we're at, and we really can't wait for our next steps in our journey, delivering our software.
That's perfect, Hector. Again, thank you very much for this quick overview of what Simtryx is. It was great that you touched so many topics that I think are worthwhile for us to explore. That I actually took note of some of them, so I'll just start by uh, right from the top. And actually at the top is something that you referred several times. It relates to the deployment costs. Most of the times, people think, okay, so implementing VR training is something that is very costly. It has like a, a huge ramp up, so you really need to have some kind of a good internal buy-in and also a good budget to even consider kicking off everything. And also another thing that sometimes I heard a little, well, I still hear a lot, that it's something that is also much more expensive than actual e-learning. And I do know for a fact that it's not exactly like that, especially if we're talking at scale. So can you talk us a bit more about that and bring us a bit of your experience
Right.
in implementing this?
Um, right. So there are different ways of looking at it. You mentioned e-learning. E-learning is a different beast when you compare it to XR. We all know and we can imagine the limitations of e-learning versus touching and talking and doing all those things that we're doing in Simtrix. Um, but yes, it's pretty much comparable to something like e-learning. Now, when compared to, I mean, price-wise, when compared to mannequins and when compared to other more, let's call it, hardware-intensive solutions that we've seen in the market, um, that's why in Simtrix we were like, okay, we're gonna do all these things, all these features, AI, hand tracking with physics, but they won't need anything else but the headset, just the headset, right? In this case, with the Quest 3, what we're doing is we're taking down the cost of hardware just to the basic minimum, which is at this point, I think, the cheapest headset in the market. But still, we're making the cheapest headset in the market be able to run AI, be able to run mixed reality, be able to run hand tracking. So we are very conscious of try to put it the lowest cost in hardware and also in a headset that to us it's very future forward. Again, the Quest 3 has already the cameras integrated to it, has colored pass through. So we feel that this headset is pretty much here to stay. Either the Quest 3 or the Quest 3S, they both work the same to us. So we're very future forward with our design of it. And so what we found is that there are a lot of universities already having or buying Quest 3s. Okay, so we felt that if Simtryx was to be something that was really easy to implement, then it would just be a download, plug and play, and there you go. So to just use all the technology that I just showed you, you just need to download it on the cheapest headset on the market, and there you go. You're good to go. And you don't even need somebody else in the PC running the task. No, you just have it right there on your headset. So I think that VR can balloon up in costs if you wanted to. If you want to have treadmills, if you want to have gloves, if you want to have multiple, headsets that are like even more advanced, you can do it. But if you want to have the option to do it at the base level with the Quest 3, just the app and go, you can have it too. In fact, our technology is very much deployable with gloves. We are programming right now a version that uses gloves if you wanted to, but we're also leaving you the option to not use gloves if your budget doesn't allow for it. So I think the key thing here, the key factor is options. Options is the key word for us. So I think that's where it really ends up being like options. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it connects a lot with part of your mission, which I believe has a lot to do with democratizing access to this kind of solutions.
Yeah.
So you referred that again, South America was pretty much the birth. All starts, I think, in Peru, right?
Yeah.
And my question is, how do you see the ramp up? Uh, not exactly how do you see it, but how do you see that these applications and these solutions can be easily implemented in a low tech environments? And I'm saying this because these low tech environments can be seen not just on in South America, but also here in Portugal. It's all about the organization itself. So, what is your experience, and how do you see again your solution and Simtryx platform being implemented into those environments,
Mm-hmm.
both at the tech
So
on the technological side, but also on the managerial side?
managerial side, right, right. So that's a very good question, and let me just backtrack a little bit because I mentioned also that I had a lot of years of experience in VR, and it's true. Not in healthcare before this though. I started to do simulations for the mining industry in Latin America, right? And I think the mining industry is very tech forward on a lot of parts, but in a lot of parts, especially HR, personal management, it can be also very, stuck in the past. The systems where a lot of companies were deploying a lot of money in some parts, but in the HR and the training part, not a lot. So what we needed to do was to make the deployment and make the use of it and make technology of it as simple to use as possible. And I carried that mindset into Simtrix now. And I was inspired by how to really do this in Latin America, and I also apply that same knowledge to our rest of deployment around the world. Right now, we're in the US too. We have some demos in Europe now. So, that's something that once you try to do it as good as you can in Latin America, for example, you can carry the knowledge everywhere. And to me, that knowledge really is first off, in the hardware side, is all about options, kind of like I mentioned. I started with the most basic product, which still works in a very technologically impressive way, but also we can go and put more haptics, give other headsets, and so on and so forth. Um, that's on the price side. On the deployment side, on the managerial side, right? Right now we are very, if I put a lot of hours into something, is to the customer relationship side. I really stick to the customer because I do think that a bit more than the technology itself, right now, what I feel like the most important thing is just to have the customer relationship thing right, done right. The being with them during the deployment, really taking your time with them to answering questions. I do think that's something because we can get really trapped into the technology part of it, and it's super cool and super nice, but sometimes the success of a project is just the human part side of it. So I tend to do that work a lot, and our people, our team at Simtryx also do it. So I do think the customer part of it is very important, and but also hopefully, Luis, you'll get to try our product later on, and everyone else here in the call can try later on, because you can download it from the Metastore. But you will see that as you get right into our product, into our app, you will see that it feels almost like it's not quite a game, but we use a lot of the design of like a game to like log in. All these things of ease of use, making the buttons look good, look big, tutorials, videos, and all that when you get in. All that makes that the users have less and less questions. So if they have less and less questions, then there is less of a bloat in the administration side of asking us the questions if they can just get it resolved inside the same app. So I think it's a mixture of three things then. I think it's giving them options to price things, and second is to give them a good service, the human side, to really be with them during the deployment. And third, I think, is to just have the app be um, designed well enough so that not many questions arise during the use. And it's just very intuitive, very easy to use. I think those are our three things.
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos for referring the topic of the human factor because we're talking about digital transformation, but at the end, tools and digital tools and technology as a whole is meaningless if people don't actually use it for a purpose. And
Yeah,
at the end, that's what it's all about. That's what we're doing. We are the guys with the tools, and we're pretty much bringing them to the market. But everyone needs to understand what it's for, and more than that, they need to understand it as a tool. So maybe it serves your purpose, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you are proficient in using it, maybe you're not. At the end, what's really important is that you find out. That's, I believe, one of the core topics that, as an innovation manager or as an innovation professional, you need to address to try and understand the technology and the core application use cases the best way possible, so that afterwards you know where to go. And also experiment. You referred in your presentation the busyness, and I don't know how many times I heard that being brought up as an excuse to not put in the VR glasses. Oh yeah, I
yeah,
tried, but I have nausea. It's something that
and
happens
it
to
could
me,
be true.
and
It,
when
it
you
probably is true. Yeah,
but
yeah.
unfortunately, when I drill down, they only tried it like once or twice, and that happened at an event in 2018, 2019, and
It was a roller
yeah,
coaster
and
app,
at that
probably a
time,
roller coaster app. Everyone's tried those. Everyone's gotten dizzy from those. Yeah,
of those cardboard glasses, and the issue is that at the end, there's that people didn't say that that experience was bad. They stated, okay, so the whole technology is like this. It brings me nausea, and like
yeah,
6 months or 6 years after, we're still, people sometimes like shield themselves behind that, because at the end they really don't want or don't have time, or feel they don't have time to explore these technologies. But at the same time, it's like that guy that is trying to push the wagon with the square wheels, and that then there's this guy with the round wheel saying, well, we have a better wheel, and oh no, I don't have time for that, because
yeah,
it really is
yeah,
very, very transformative. But again, there are challenges in implementing, and my next question is exactly down that alley. So, what are, from your experience, and you've interacted with several different kinds of organizations and institutions, so it's not just a direct to consumer application. So, on your side, what were the main challenges that you encountered when implementing your solution, when implementing Simtryx platform, and what do you see is the most valued or most appreciated feature, most appreciated benefit that the platform brings to professionals?
Right. Um, so something in my experience is that right now what we're building in Simtrix, and what we've already built is the framework, right? We built that the whole part of last year. Now we are building month after month, we're building case after case. We are making a robust catalog, but uh, we can't just build a catalog and be done with it. Something that I've found is that everyone, every kind of institution wants a custom based scenario or wants some customization on their own scenario. And if you don't accept that, then you're gonna run into a huge wall. Um, it's so in regards of that, what we've done is we've built a framework that lets us easily customize the cases. We've built the tools that lets us easily develop new custom based scenarios, but we still do it. Like we don't ever say no to a custom based scenario. And in fact, it's part of our business model. So I think a challenge would be that when you deliver a product, when you deliver the service to someone, they will usually go like, "Oh, please tell me you do custom-based scenarios because I've talked to so many they don't do it, and I'm like this, I don't really like it when they don't do it." So we've had to accommodate our tools to allow for custom-based scenarios, and now it's a staple of Simtrix. Now we do it, and we offer it from the get-go because we believe it's very important. Um, but on that note, I would also say that, and to your question, that what are the parts of the technology that people appreciate the most? Um, Definitely, we've had a lot of people that were like you said, were saying that they get dizzy. So for us, the part of mixed reality and having them not be dizzy anymore could be number one for a lot of people. That definitely has opened us a lot of doors and institutions. Um, but once we get past that fact and once people already start using it, um, I would say the easiest one to just be like blown away, even for me when I first tried it, and now our own product was the AI part of it. It's just to me it does feel like the same kind of aha moment in VR, kind of like when you first tried it, you saw the whale going on top of you when you first tried it years ago. It felt to me kind of like that when I first put on our new Simtrix prototype. I tried it in my living room, and a guy popped in the middle of the room, and I started talking to him in a back and forth manner. That AI component with XR is so powerful. I really can't explain just how powerful it is until I think everyone needs to try it for themselves. But it's mind blowing. But nowadays, I gotta say, nowadays we're getting. I think the AI XR part of it, people were blown away by it last year, and people are more used to it now. It's almost like people are almost expecting it now. So I do think that people are now more blown away by the fact of our hand tracking physics component. I think it really has closed the loop on talking and now being able to really move the patient around. I think we've been getting a lot of calls with just that component in mind, the physics part of it. So it's a very interesting question because I think the answer changes depending on the time of the year. At first it was a mixed reality, then last year it was AI, and now this year it's been our hand tracking physics part of it, really. So it's so interesting how technology moves around. The expectations of what people are expecting to see or feel are changing. Last year, I think people were blown away by AI. Now they're more, expecting it. So now the star of the show has become our physics hand tracking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's you're absolutely right. the hype waves are there, right? And that influences a bit about the expectations that people have regarding VR platforms. And afterwards, it's all a matter of trying to address the user side, the implementation issues, the challenges, and at the end, rolling out a solution that makes sense for that specific use case, so that opportunity or that framework that you're developing to customize the use cases to each one of the areas of the users. That's really interesting. Actually, just straight out of the bat, how many areas right now are do you have? Just so that everyone who is listening know exactly what they can find on with your
Mhm.
in your app right now.
Mhm. Perfect. So we are not really focusing on an area of medicine. We are putting different cases from different fields of medicine. Um, we are going to be pushing out bundles in the future, but right now we're putting different just cases that have been highly requested. Something about, maybe it could be congestive heart disease. It could be liver failure. It could be, abdominal trauma from a car crash, different cases that people just were getting into the ER room or into the or the most highly requested cases. But what we've done though is we have grouped our cases into three different categories as how they progress, at least inside our simulation. Which is, the first one is the basic case, which is the basic consultation case. You get a patient that comes in, sits on the bed, and he's completely lucid. You can ask questions, you can do it back and forth, and what you need to do is to diagnose whatever his symptoms are and what do you think he has. Doing the correct steps, right, as you would do in a simulation case. But then we also have our second case, which are the advanced cases. These are ER cases. The patient doesn't come in this completely lucid state, but it can come in different states. It can come even unconscious, and you need to just, by looking at his history, at his file, and by doing the correct physical test, you can start getting an idea of what medications to apply, what kind of interventions to apply an IV line, to maybe put this kind of medication or the other, and his state and his vitals can change in real time. And if it changes to real time for the worse, you can even have him go into cardiac arrest and fail the simulation. And the third case to us is procedures. We call it procedures, which is basically nursing procedures. We are doing here all kinds of procedures using, again, our hand tracking technology. For example, how to put an IV line, in which you need to do the correct steps, even to find the vein in his hand, lift his hand a little bit, and position the needle in such a way that it can go in a correct angle, for example, or even intubation, that are very step-by-step procedures. You need to do it very carefully. So three kinds of cases that we have, and we're going to be having 40 cases by the end of the year. Right now we are reaching our first 20 cases, but by the end of the year we'll be reaching 40. And this is all in addition to the custom developed cases that we're doing also. But yeah, that's our main catalog.
And well, one of the core issues, well, actually, just before doing the next question, I would just tell everyone who is on the call, you are also welcome to ask your questions. So please just write on here on the chat or just raise your hand, and I'll be happy to give you the floor. Because if you don't, I'll just keep on going. I'll I was just going to go on to talk about data, because clearly that's one of the key topics here. It's becoming more and more a key topic, especially in Europe. We're talking about patients' data altogether. There are several like key and flagship project at the European Commission regarding that. So it's a very hot topic, and my next question relates to that. So, how do you take care of all the information from the patient, and also do you provide on the other side Do you provide any analytics for the user for from the application user?
Perfect. So yes, we have an we just deployed this month our new upgraded analytics platform, in which it lets you see everything about what you did in your case to in the simulation. Even what it lets you is to look at the conversation you did, every phrase that you said out loud, and every phrase that the AI thought about and gave back to you. It's all recorded in our analytics platform. So we're very happy about it, how that turned out, because we feel that that's an important step, to record all the conversation that you're talking with a virtual patient. Um, well, that is something that lives in our server, the analytics conversation, only what is recorded as a medical conversation. Medical conversation, as in, did the patient understood the question and did they process it? Then that gets stored in the server. But that material, that sensitive information, is up to you to erase. If you ask us to erase any case, every part of it, then we can erase it, and we don't store any of that for our own purposes. I think that is a very important thing to think about. Who is the real owner of the conversation, or of the session performance review or test. That is up to the user to decide, and is not for us to use it in any other way rather than just servicing the user and in their learning. So I think, and that's something also very good to ask, because I know that's a very important thing in Europe, but also I got to add that Meta also asked us to take that into account. What do we do with the sensitive information? It doesn't surprise me, because Meta's obviously has done a turn on how to really manage or handle sensitive information from their users. So I think everyone is really worried about what to do with sensitive information. So from multiple sides, we really had to do a concrete plan on what to do with the information, how to handle it, who has permissions, and when or how to erase it. But that's something that I think we've already done, and we're satisfied on where we are right now. Yeah.
Okay. We have a first question here on the chat from Rita. She's asking, how do you train the tool for the simulation? So which type of data do you use? How do you validate the accuracy of the simulation? So several questions in here. Let me even throw in a fourth. Do you use this, because I understand that from in your application it's possible to have collaborative sessions, so multi-user sessions. So also, how does that go? And can you train and create the simulations using several users?
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, to answer the question, so how do you train a tool? Well, in this case, we have a medical team inside Simtryx. We are designing the simulations based on our medical team's experience. Their experience, simulator, technicians, and also developers. They have been doing development for other tools. It could be e-learning or mannequins, and they're taking all the experience into creating the medical part of our design. So we validated these cases in our own use with our clients too. They have already been validated. We have some pilot testing and some special clients that we have, in which we can test and pilot out our new cases that we're going to roll out. So they also come out with validation from being used in the field too. Um, so the type of data that we use is, you would use the a patient case file that was already validated by the medical team. And when we do this is we feed this patient case file to our AI. And the AI, after doing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the AI, what you'll start getting is the AI will start to embody the patient in the case file, and will start to um, answer the questions that you ask to the patient in the way that relates to how the patient would be. For example, I always mention this because this is one of my favorite examples of how AI interacts, which is in the case of liver failure, right? The patient case file is someone that's been drinking for a long time. He can even have problems of alcoholism. And if you start asking questions about the habit of drinking to the patient, like how many, if you drink at all, how often, he will try to minimize it. He will start saying, he will just answer back, I don't really drink, maybe one beer at most during the week, maybe. But if you double down on it, if you ask him again, saying like, this doesn't look like someone that only drinks one beer a week, is that really all that you consume? Then he will open up and he will say that he is embarrassed because those are parts of it, like emotion, let's call it emotion, that you can even add to the AI to make it even more immersive. And you can even challenge also the soft skills of the user even more. A real doctor would have to sometimes double down on things that he is thinking that are clues for something else, for an underlying kind of habit. So we can even do that with our AI. So that's kind of how we train it. And yeah, I think that would answer the question. Yeah, hopefully. That's kind of
No,
how we train it.
absolutely. And the issue regarding the accuracy of the simulation itself. So how do you how is there any kind of validation or certification? Do you apply to be certified as a standardized training or education tool in specific countries or environments?
Mm. So far we haven't run into that subject matter of certification of case simulations. I know there are certifications for simulations in the US, and right now we are working on getting certification from every simulation that we do. The thing is that what we're doing is pretty new in the way on the flow how it goes. So right now we are just basing off from our clients' validation of the simulations that we're doing. And so far, again, because we have a medical team, the medical team has been pretty accurate with everything that we've been doing. But so far, there hasn't been a roadblock really. I think certifications are an added bonus on the simulations that you do, but they're not really a huge roadblock as long as your client's validations are up to standards, I would say.
Just so we have like a clear notion, and again, going back to proving that this is happening right now, and this is a core topic of this metaverse webinar series. Can you share a range or some kind of number regarding the number of users that have been benefiting from your solution since, well, right now, and since its inception? Because it's really important for people to understand that this is not something that is at this point in like 2 or 3 proofs of concept or pilots around. It's already being used in production.
Right.
So yeah, if you could share some numbers, that would be great.
Right. So what I can say is that I mean, we have developed this tool in just a year, and just after the year of development, right now our clients and users in different stages, right? We have a client in more of a mature deployment. We have other clients in POC stage. We have others in demo stage. But all in all, I would say that right now we have over 10 universities only the region of the Americas already using the most advanced mixed reality AI and hand tracking simulation. Um, and Luis, and you should know this, right? That to deploy a tool like this at scale, it would be a pretty long process, right?
It is.
But to us, the thing that was very important was to have people to be able to just download it on the Quest 3s that they already had and to be able to put it into the process simulations that they already had. Um, you know, um, I mean, there are some universities that already have their simulation programs all laid out. So if they already have Quest 3s for some reason, maybe for demo purposes or something like that, and they already have simulation program, then to put our tool inside their funnel, I made sure for it to be as fast and easy as possible. So that's how right now we have over 10 universities using our tool here in the region of Latin America and in the US. in multiple parts of the deployment process. We are really expecting for that number to even go higher during the rest of the year because we have many more that are in the demo stage. So that's part of our desire, and definitely for all those clients to be expanding to more and more and more students. We have some clients of them of us right now that want to deploy it to every student that goes through a medical school program, which would be something that's what we strive for, and so hopefully we can get to that number by the end of the year.
That's very, very impactful. Again, Um, I didn't understand from the beginning, from the that you were catering that so much to universities. That is also really interesting. Also because that there's a huge need for upskilling also in that market, not just of the students themselves, but also from the teachers
Mm-hmm.
and in specifically
Yes.
our solutions. So or in emerging tech solutions. So that's really, really, really interesting and impact.
Yeah.
If in Europe, some organization was to pursue one of those customized experiences that you talked about, and wanted to reach out to you, how would they go about it?
Perfect. So, you can always reach me through my email, or through the website. Really, I think it's the more the easiest way, which is simtrix.com. You know, and through there you can even sign up for our Meta Store demo. We're doing invite only at this point. So you should just sign up, and being a university or a partner, will just share the credentials, so you can just download it and try it today. It's just as fast and easy, kind of like how I described it, which is again our whole MO, really, to have someone just having a quest tree, no peripherals, no anything, just download it and you're good to go.
Okay.
So that would be how.
And does that experience also include the AI interaction,
Yeah,
the voice
yeah,
interaction with the AI patient? That's
everything.
that's perfect. That's really, really interesting. Just for that, I believe it's also really, really interesting for um, each
And
and
I would like
every.
to and I would like to add that also you have multiple Quest 3s. You can also do the multiplayer experience with just the Meta Quest demo. So that's something to add too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hector, this is really, really cool. We'll make sure also to insert the link to the app also on the description of this
Yeah.
webinar, because it's for so that everyone who is listening can easily tap into it. And alongside with it, of course, also your coordinates, online coordinates on social media, so that people also can also connect. We're reaching the end of this episode. It's like very, 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 very easy for us to go through 1 hour of discussion and conversation. It's amazing. Yeah, just the
Really.
amount of really good stuff that you're doing. Thanks for this. Thanks for being here and also sharing a bit more about your experience and what Simtryx is bringing to the market. This vision of connecting XR and AI, although it's pretty much on everyone's minds and speeches, most of the times it's not as visible, and clearly your solution brings it up and in a clear and smooth way. And yeah, I really expect to seeing really more cool things happening also for Simtrix in the coming months, and also hope that you have the opportunity also to come to this side of the Atlantic, and that
Yeah.
we do a new episode in, I don't know, maybe in some months, talking a bit more also about your experience here. But yeah, this was absolutely great. Again, Hector, thank you very much for this.
No, and thank you, Luis. And again, our goal is, I know I talked about a lot about Latin America, but it's more like Latin America taught us a lot about how to do deployment at scale. and easy to use. So our next goals really are to keep deploying all over the world, and of course, I would love to keep the deployment going in Europe. So I'm really hoping that I'll get a chance to visit you, Luis, in Portugal. I know that Portugal has a lot of great initiatives in XR, as it's very evident for me. Um, and again, I would love to share our credentials for use of Simtryx to everyone in this call. Just reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to share the credentials so you can try it out and hopefully um, develop some new cases for Portugal only. So that'll be very fun to do.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we have also several people listening in from several other countries, also in Europe. So yeah, for sure. That would be amazing. And again, would give us the reason for yet another episode. So let's keep that in mind. Again, Hector, thank you so much for that, for all of this, for the episode, and thank you all for listening in.